Hello, Tailoring Talkers. It's time for a long overdue Bondathon. My friends and I are watching the entire James Bond movie series from beginning to end, one movie at a time. We deep dive into each film, covering everything from the plot, clothes, gadgets, cast, behind the scenes stories, and our favourite moments. Please help the show by subscribing and leaving us a rating and a review. If you're watching on YouTube, also join in the comments and let us know whatever's on your mind. Step back into the Tailoring Talk time machine as we head to 2002 and the 40th anniversary of James Bond. It is time to die another day. It has been a long time coming. I do apologise. We've all had sort of life going on. But I am joined as always by my intrepid Bond explorers. I'm totally messing this up. I'm so freaking tired, guys.
Bondonauts?
We have...
Bondonauts? Huh? Well, there's astronauts. Are we Bondonauts?
Bondonauts?
Buccaneers? I don't know.
Bondonauts sounds a bit weird because it's got the word bond in, which is also in bondage. So this has gone downhill already. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, right. So joined off, first of all, by... someone who recently has hemorrhaged his bank account by buying the new iPad Pro, because we tend to do everything gadget related together. It is John Shag Count Evans. John, how are you?
On the video feed. I have just checked the end of my notes to confirm the Shag Count of this film, so I am ready for that. It's quite an unusual one. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I went out for an eye test today. Because my eyesight's failing, and I got there and they said, right, which glasses do you want to buy? I said, I can't buy any glasses because I spent my money on an iPad. so I've just come to figure out how bad my eyes are, and then later on I'll get some glasses. My wife's not happy.
So what you do, John, is you hold your new iPad Pro M4 up in front of you and just use the camera. So you look at the iPad screen while the iPad looks at the real world. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Really, get another one of those, and I've got a Vision Pro, haven't I? Mm-hmm. I can see.
This is true.
Reach for putting his head in his hands there as well.
Bit of gaffer tape, and you could look. I've got it here. It's so light as well. It's so thin and light. Anyway, we're talking about look. See, Vision Pro.
Other tablets are available.
But
sorry, Alex, this is kind of awesome. gone a weird way, hasn't it? This podcast so far.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, right, back. Let's get back on track. Also with me is the gadget guru with the heart of gold. When we are all falling apart, he is the glue that holds us together. That sounded so wrong. Alex Hansford, how are you, my friend?
Hello, I'm good. I'm not bad. I'm kind of looking forward to some sunshine. Do you know where it is?
It's behind the clouds and the rain, Alex. It's always there.
Great British summer.
It's there if you look for it.
That's what it is.
It's there if you look for it. I went for a bike ride in New Forest that weekend. It was lovely. It's there if you look for it.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So before we get started, we better get our spoiler alert out of the way. I mean, it's only been 20-odd years since this movie, so if you haven't
22.
seen it yet, 22, then please pause, go watch it, come back. But I'm guessing by now that you're here because you have seen it and you want to join in the discussion, or you have thoughts and you just want to twirl them around while John, Alex and I share our thoughts on this film. So yeah, there we go. It was released, as Alex said, in 2002, 22 years ago. I can't believe it. I remember when this came out. Because there was all the hype of it being the 40th anniversary, possibly Brosnan's last film, because at the time, we knew it was the end of his 4-picture deal with Eon. The car, because obviously it was heavily publicised that it had the cloaking device and everything. John Cleese being Q, because there was no more Desmond Llewellyn. There was a lot of I remember there was a lot of marketing glitz around this movie. But yeah, 22 years ago, John, do you remember when this came out?
I do remember it coming out. I remember going to see it at the cinema. Yeah. There's this during my wilderness years, my lost years, 2002. There's lots going on. So I remember that I went to see the film, but who knows? I mean, yeah. Moving on.
Alex, 22 years ago, when you were a very, very young man, memories of this movie coming out?
So, 22 years ago, I was feeling 22, like the great Taylor Swift. And yeah, I remember going to see it. I think it was in my wilderness years as well, John. Actually, we don't really speak about those, but yeah, no. So I do remember going to see it. I remember being a little bit disappointed.
Oh, little spoiler there.
I do remember being a little bit disappointed. Yeah, I don't know really, but it is a bit of an end of an era, isn't it? So
I just remembered it was my second 8 to 10 months of teaching in schools. I trained in 2001, so I probably was just working my nuts off and didn't have time to go and see it or remember it.
Yeah.
It came out in November of 2002, which is one of the busiest terms, is Christmas term. So probably just went to see it in a flash as a kind of a respite from work. How about you, Bobby? Do you remember seeing it at cinema?
I want to say I do, but I'm not sure. I must have seen it in the cinema. Because, I was on the whole kind of Brosnan train, right? From GoldenEye, and then, I raved about that. World Is Not Enough, I absolutely loved. Tomorrow Never Dies, loved. So I must have seen it in the cinema. Almost certainly. I definitely would have got the soundtrack, like, straight away, because it was David Arnold again. And at the time, I just thought everything he touched just seemed to turn to gold. So, yeah. But like Alex, I do remember being sort of disappointed by this one. I think more of my memories are probably when it came out on DVD and then I was able to rewatch it and, kind of sort of had a flat feeling. But it was really interesting coming back to it after all these years because I haven't seen it. I'm pretty sure I've not seen it since. And I have to say, guys, do you know what? We're going to do this back to front today. I want to do this more as a conversation because it is the end of the Brosnan era. And we are about to embark on Craig, as Mark would say. Yeah, I'm all about the Craig films. Mark would say that, wouldn't he?
Yeah,
he would.
I have to say, we laughed through it. Right, okay. So this, for me, was a movie of two halves, right? So you have the initial setup premise, the pre-credit sequence. We see Bond in territory that we've never seen him before. He's in North Korea. He gets captured. He's in there for, I think it was like 5-6 years or something like that. And, he's practically disavowed. I mean, the only reason why they get him out of there is because they think that he's been feeding information to the Koreans. So we see him in a really vulnerable place. And so I think it's actually one of the best openings of the entire series for that reason. But then obviously the second half goes a bit nuts. And then we've got the crappy CGI set piece as part of the whole Ice Palace thing at the end.
It's Brosnan's least favourite Bond film, this one.
Okay, I didn't know that.
For saying that he did not like all the silly special effects and kind of overblown exaggeratedness of it all. In fact, I think he suggested to the producers that they make the next Bond film a bit more gritty and real, which it kind of was, wasn't it? It was a bit less special effectsy and, quite a change in tone, the next film, Casino Royale.
Yeah, but he wanted this one to be more character-driven. He said it's always got to be about the character first. And I think they started off that way, but then Wade and Purvis just kind of went off the reservation a bit. But we were laughing through the second half, and there was a lot of... In the end, it was so incredulous that you just had to lean into it and go with it. And we actually ended up having quite a bit of fun with this. And it's funny because while I wouldn't put it in the same league as Moonraker, but at the same time, it has got that kind of Moonraker vibe about it. And the interesting thing is that although it's not officially talked about at all, it is kind of seen that it could be a second adaptation of the original Moonraker novel because of plot elements that they've taken from the book that seem to be in here. So in the novel, a Nazi adopts a new identity, which is Hugo Drax, becomes a popular British multimillionaire, donates millions to create the Moonraker missile, which is meant to be for the UK's protection, but actually is meant to completely obliterate London. So there are parallels between that and Die Another Day's plot as well. And so coming into it, thinking, and we've talked about it for months, right? We've all been saying, when we've given a film a low rating, we've said we know that there's one that's going to go lower than this. And I come into this conversation with you guys kind of slightly embarrassed and also amused that I'm going to say to you that it might not be quite as low a rating as I thought for months and months I was going to give this one when I got to it, because it is kind of a guilty pleasure.
I can see that. I can see it being a guilty pleasure. I mean, the big thing at the time for this film was I remember being in all the papers. It wasn't the plot or the CGI. It was that moment that Halle Berry walked out of the sea, and everyone said that apparently she got paid a lot of money just for that scene. A bit like the scene in what was it? Is it Blowfish? The film with Hugh Jackman, where they paid her a lot of money to take a bikini off, like a lot.
Swordfish.
That's it. Swordfish.
Much cooler than Blowfish.
Yeah, Hootie and the Blowfish. No, I can see. Yeah, I'm with you. We were chuckling at the second half of the film, me and Becca, really, because it was it felt like almost like a romp, or like one of those comedies where people are coming in and stage left and stage right and going through the French windows the whole time. Especially in the Ice Palace, where they're kind of like he's coming and going into the what was it called, it was like a jungle greenhouse area, wasn't it? It was just sort of diving into out again, hiding behind the invisible car, and then back in again. It all felt a bit like a TV series or something. I don't know. It just felt a bit off for James Bond. It's hard to put my finger on it, but it just felt a bit more, a bit camp and silly, really. And it's the scene where Q walks past the invisible car and his legs go all wide, as it's meant to be, sort of being refracted, but it just didn't actually behave like real refraction would, and it just felt a bit kind of, what are they doing here? It's all gone a bit weird.
It got worse as well with the VR goggles.
I think it's caused problems with my shag count. I'll talk to you about that in a second.
Yeah. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
but yeah,
do
there's
virtual shags count?
Well, listen. Well, I do my shag count. I think it's 3 because he shagged someone twice, but it's 3.5. Does a VR shag count as half a shag? Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, how far did she get before?
Well, we don't know how long she was in there with the goggles on, do we? So I'm going to count it as a half. It's our first ever 3.5 shag count in a Bond film. Our first.
Is masturbating shagging?
I mean,
I think it's
because you need two.
Partial, isn't it?
You need 2 people to shag, don't you? At least, depending on what you're into, right? So probably half is right.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, half. Yeah.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Yeah. Anyway, back to the story. So it opens, for me, one of the best opening sequences of any Bond film. It was very thrilling, heart and mouth. He gets captured. That was all filmed in Aldershot, by the way. That was filmed in Aldershot.
Famous North Korean town, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the director, he said he was a little bit disappointed after he took the job because he very quickly realised that filming on location in a Bond movie meant that you were never more than 10 to 15 minutes away from Pinewood Studios.
Lee
and they usually sent the second units, etc., off to all the exotic locations. Yeah. So for the very beginning bit where you've got the surfers coming in, they wanted to find the biggest waves in the world, and so they went to Jaws Island in Hawaii, and that's where that was filmed. But none of the cast were there. It was just the championship surfing stuntmen that were flown out there with Vic Armstrong presumably supervising to film that sort of opening sequence. Which I thought was pretty good, but then I was like, aren't there sort of more efficient ways to get yourself into North Korea? I don't know. They could have used Roger Moore's alligator, right?
No, it's quiet. I quite like the surfing gadgets as well. It was quiet. I mean, if you're going to get in stealthily, you get in under with a vehicle that doesn't have a motor. So I think you have the right idea. It just depends how good you are at surfing. If you're not a good surfer, you're buggered, aren't you?
Yeah. But then it's like, that's where the sort of fantastical elements of this kick off, that, it's like Bond can do absolutely everything.
Yeah, he's a superhero.
Like, is there anything he can't do?
Monogamous relationship?
Apart from monogamous relation, a being single.
He likes shaking.
He's not good at handing his notice in when he leaves a job.
No. He's not
Daniel
very
Craig was pretty
discreet
good.
in his acts of lovemaking at the end of the film, either, is he, really, generally?
No.
So he has his flaws,
So-
you know.
No one's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the cast, actually, because we've got... God, what was his name? Is it Rick Yune, who was in Fast and Furious, right? And he didn't initially want to do the film. I think he wanted the main villain and didn't get it, and was told that he was going to be the sidekick. And it took a lot of convincing as well. But, you know, he did it. I thought he was pretty good.
I quite enjoyed his character in this film. It was quite an interesting looking character after he had the shrapnel in his face, which was interesting, because your body would reject that eventually, wouldn't it? But it's interesting.
You'd think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think my body wouldn't, because I'm all about the bling. But, so he was good. And then Toby Stephens was cast in the role of Gustav Graves.
Yeah.
And I remember him originally being the most irritating thing about this film, the very first time I saw it. But having seen it the second time and remembering the plot and the fact that he is actually Colonel Moon's son who's undergone that DNA redirection therapy or whatever to change his face. You know what they should have done? They should have just ripped off that John Travolta Nicolas Cage movie. They should have just done they should have done it, yeah. I love how you did that.
No, because then the people from Mission Impossible will come and sue them, wouldn't they? Even though it was before Mission Impossible, wasn't it?
No.
When was the
Face
first
Off
Mission?
was way before Mission Impossible. Michelin Impossible. That's the themed restaurant you can go to.
Tom Cruise is a chef,
to eat all. Yeah, exactly. That's it. You won't see him because he's so short.
But they've got special low counters for him, haven't they? So you can chop up all the fish and stuff on the counters.
Hi, what do you want? What can I get you tonight? Welcome to Michelin Impossible.
And then whenever he's moving up and down the
Cruise.
counter, he's always running at high speed with pumping his arms, like he does in all his films. Up and down the counter.
Again,
Sorry.
like those surfers did. So that was that. Judi Dench is back as no more Desmond Llewellyn for the first time. He is no more, sadly. The torch has been passed to John Cleese.
I don't like John Cleese in these films.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I don't like him in these
Get
films.
it off your chest, John. Why?
Well, because he's an idiot. He's not the kind of the haughty, superior, but quite rightly sort of, old guy that's always right, like Desmond was. He comes across as being a bit of a numpty, really, and I just don't like that role. Even the new young Q, Ben Whishaw in the new films, comes across as being quite knowing and kind of, he knows what he's doing. But this Q he's a transition Q, isn't he? He's not a real Q, to be honest.
But also, I think that even Ben Whishaw has got this quiet authority about him, and he sort of hypothetically thinks nothing of hypothetically giving Daniel Craig a slap on the wrist when he needs it, or sort of talking, sort of almost slightly down at him in disdain, especially when it comes to talking about the lack of respect for equipment and all that sort of thing. I remember in. Was it in Quantum of Solace, which has got the smaller Aston Martin? I think it's the DBS. And there's that chase sequence that happens in Paris, I think. And the car gets completely totaled along the river. Maybe I'm getting two films mixed up.
There's a lot of bombs.
No, it is a DBS. It is a DBS.
Yeah. And that film gets... That car gets totally, wrecked. Anyway, Ben Wishaw's Q obviously has something to say about that. Who else was in this? Colin Salmon again. Okay. Samantha Bond, Moneypenny. Okay, so Rosie Pike.
She's very, very nice in this.
She is.
Did she get the gig in Mission Impossible, do you think, on the back of this? Because she plays a character in Mission Impossible as well, doesn't she? And I wonder if that...
Yeah.
She wasn't in Mission Impossible.
The one with...
You're thinking of the Bourne I didn't... No, that's not her.
No, that was Julia Stiles.
It was.
Sorry,
I'm
drinking.
confused.
She's definitely in one, but she's a double agent, and it turns out she's a bad guy in the end. Spoiler. I'm pretty sure that's her.
She wasn't in Mission Impossible, John. She was in Jack Reacher.
Jack Reacher.
Rosamund Pike?
2012. Yeah.
Oh,
She's
I'm
not
losing
been
track.
in any Mission
Agent.
Impossible films, trust me. I'm a
Who's
massive
the one in
fan of
Mission
that
Impossible
franchise.
I don't know.
In
You
which
know what?
Mission Impossible?
Isn't she a
I
baddie
think
in
she
this one
got-
as well? She isn't she?
No,
Yeah.
Mission Impossible is what's her name? Oh my god, I can't remember her name. But anyway,
Okay,
it's not Rosamund Pike has not been in any Mission
It's this
Impossible
film where
films.
she's a baddie, really. I'm getting my girls mixed up for different films, but
Yeah,
I think she's very good in this. This is the first time she was in a film. I think first film she made, so that's pretty good. I mean, she
Yeah,
comes
it was
across
her,
as being an
it was
established
her
actress.
debut, wasn't it?
But, yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's pretty good in this. I mean, she's
yeah.
she fits the Bond girl role, I think, in being kind of like the elegant British one, and then you've got Halle Berry, who's the kind of the slinky American one.
The North.
You know, and there haven't been very many American Bond girls. Do we count Michelle Yeoh? We don't do really. She's an American citizen? She's not, is she?
No, she's Malaysian.
Yeah. So I think she did a good job. I thought she was quite good in this.
I
mean, it's not.
I wasn't convinced.
You weren't.
I think the thing from my point of view was, I think her character was poorly written, so there was very little depth to her. You saw one side, which was I hate you, and then there was another side where it was supposed to be compassion, but there wasn't. So it was because her name was Frost, wasn't it?
Miranda Frost, yeah.
And so she was, so she was very naturally icy to Bond. But then the thing is, it's like, then when she turns, and you go, oh, it's like, well, I could have guessed that, because there's no part that's warned me to this character. So I don't know. The thing is, I feel like you need to be able to be able to relate to them. And I felt like I couldn't relate to her at all.
Is that her fault?
Yeah.
No,
No.
the writer's fault. Alex?
It was the writer's fault.
Yeah.
I think she did what she could with the role, but it didn't help. Like it's just one of those things, you know. I think it's character was the issue. I wouldn't say she acted it perfectly, because I couldn't see what I just couldn't see. She obviously acted with what she had, but there were there were quite a few bits of this film that didn't quite add up. They were like, people were there for a token reason.
Like
and
Michael
then you
Madsen.
were like,
He seemed a bit out of place in this film
Yeah.
as well, I thought.
yeah, that was a cameo, wasn't it?
A weird role he was playing. Was it Damien Falco?
Yes.
Was he a CIA agent in this?
Yeah, he was.
Was he like a
He
sort of
was a
Felix
spook,
Leiter
wasn't
style,
he?
Basically, is he, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was, there were a few roles that were odd in this particular one, but I think
Madonna.
hers was the
for
most.
instance.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God, yes. Oh,
The sword
and
lady,
who
Verity.
else? She was Verity. That's right. What
Did
about
she
the
see- was
other
the theme tune?
the other
Theme
cameo
tune
we
was
had?
her song, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's probably why she's in it.
Die Another Day was hers.
Yeah.
It was Goldie was in it, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
No, not was it Goldie? Yeah, it was Goldie, I think.
Yeah, Goldie was in The World Is Not Enough.
No, you're right.
But he was in a token. No, who was it that was in? There was a token one where he was in the fencing club. I can't remember who it was, but they had a few cameos sprinkled through that were super obvious. Anyway, so so I don't know. I think the character work could do with could do with some more work.
Yeah.
Even Moneypenny with the VR piece.
I felt really bad
anyway.
for her.
I
thought
think
that
they
was
did her a disservice because, like Moneypenny's always had that sort of flirtatious relationship with Bond, but it's always been kind of at arm's reach
Yes.
to a greater or lesser degree. And then in this one, it was like, she just suddenly went from being this kind of,
Demure,
strong,
Yeah.
the person that you need in the crow's nest with a sniper's rifle that's got your back to just like pathetic fawning. Her, this technology has given her the opportunity to succumb to her wildest fantasies and all
we're
of that.
looking
It
at
was-
a very private moment, really, aren't we? It was just felt intrusive and weird.
And also doing that at work as well. Can you imagine if you were watching
Well,
dodgy
we've all
stuff
done
on
that,
your
probably,
Vision
really,
Pro
to be fair. We've all done that, mate.
at work? You'd get done.
I don't know whether you'd do that on work time. on a work
especially
computer.
in a school.
Listeners, that was a joke.
All of John's students that write to me regularly to say, Mr. Evans was really good on your podcast last week. Report him.
Someone said to me, Bobby, that they listened to the podcast. I just hadn't assumed would listen. I was quite surprised. Someone at work.
Oh,
Hello, whoever that was.
Hello, John's. Mr. Evans is student or John's colleague who listens to
Shout out
the
to
podcast.
Listen to the podcast.
Whoever it is, if you're listening to this, tailoringtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Get in touch. Let's have a chat. Yeah. She had a major HR moment with, didn't she? Did anyone spot what I'm talking about? When it goes through Miranda Frost's file with her and says something like, you've never been tempted, or you've never shagged any of your fellow agents or whatever. Never had sex with any of your fellow agents. I mean, come on.
Intimately involved.
That's it, yeah. N needs to be written up for that one.
I guess it's one of those things of looks good on paper, but there's normally something underneath that. But yeah, I don't know. I just if I want to keep going back to the girls, because I think that's a good place to come back to. When I'm thinking about this, I more believe Jinx, despite how relatively two-dimensional she is. I much more prefer her role than I do to Rosamund's.
Well, Jinx is more of a traditional Bond girl role, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it has a little bit more dimension to it, and you have a bit more respect for her. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but anyway. Let's move on.
But again, it's like her arc just sort of descends into, she goes being sort of this happy-go-lucky, doesn't really care about anything, kick-ass, quite frankly, gorgeous woman, who then by the end is reduced to if she needs to be saved, basically. And I wish they wouldn't do that, not to the extent that they did it in this film. That whole her sort of drowning in the car. I mean, she was practically dead at one point, and then he obviously revives her and everything. But I just thought it was so disappointing for the character to be in that much trouble. So yeah, but her entrance was great.
When they went to Hawaii, and they sort of did a Hawaiian version of the Bond theme. That was cool.
That was meant to be Cuba.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
Not Hawaiian, Havana. It was I'm misreading my writing here. Havana Bond theme. Yeah. She was very flirty, wasn't she? And actually, I thought that the Shag number 1 for Bond, I thought was quite raunchy for a Bond film. Actually,
yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah, it was. Yeah, there was like
thanks, Bobby.
Noises, weren't there? What?
Yeah.
What's so funny? I'm still a virgin. I don't know what noises they make.
It
was quite dirty. It went on. It went on a bit longer than usual as well. Like Roger Moore's ones, you sort of just laughed at, right? But this was one that I feel like if it had come out when I was about 5 years old, my mum would have covered my eyes.
Mm.
There's a bit with the knife as well, isn't there? And I thought, this has got a bit Basic Instinct.
Yeah. Although he did have a raunchy one with Sophie Marceau, right? With the ice cubes and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Distracted.
Distracted.
I'm watching the scene now just to remind myself.
Yeah. But her entrance was good. But then immediately spoiled by the dialogue.
Yeah.
That whole, what do predators do? They feast and then, cut to sex scene. It was just, such either lazy writing or those two were just high on whatever drugs they were being, fed Eon.
No owls in Havana.
Yeah.
And it's like, what would you say?
The ornithologist reference was obviously a reference to the fact that the original book name for James Bond came from, a book that...
Yeah. Well, the book's in the film as well. There's a lot of things in the film. Bond picks up from this sleeper, and it's a field guide to the birds of West Indies, which is written by James Bond, wasn't it? They've actually got a scene where that book's in the film.
I think they reference pretty much every single film. So I've got a list here with some notes. So tell me if a Bond film is missing, okay? So let's start at the top. Dr. No. After Bond escapes to the deck of the ship he's been held in, you can hear the noises from the opening of Dr. No before the gun barrel and James Bond theme kick in, and Honey Rider's introduction is replicated with Jinx's introduction scene in her swimsuit. From Russia with Love, Spectre filming James Bond and Tatiana in Istanbul, which has also been the scene that's been used to screen test potential new James Bond actors ever since. There's some footage of James, God, what was his name, the American actor that they were looking at to take over from Roger Moore.
Not James Caan.
No, James, God, what the hell was his name? Anyway. The Chinese Secret Service filmed Bond and the massage girl through a mirror, if you remember. That Chinese agent, so two facts here, by the way, if I can interject. The Chinese agent there was meant to be Wei Lin. They were looking for, they originally were planning to bring Wei Lin back into this film, but because of scheduling conflicts with Michelle Yeoh, they couldn't. And so that's why they changed the character to the guy, and that's what we've got.
That's a shame.
And also, the massage girl, I was looking at her and I was thinking, why do I think I know you, and why do I think I had a massive crush on you when I was about 18 years old? Who remembers the Lynx advert with the guy at the bar, and then the two hot girls come up next to him, and then they start dancing, and it's the I like to party.
I don't remember that advert.
Dun. Everybody does. Well, you don't remember that advert?
Yeah, I remember the advert. But
she was the fit girl in that advert. Are you looking it up now? You're both looking it up.
Well, I'm trying to, but I can't.
They're both looking it up. People listening to this.
It's a bit.
Anyway.
Tenuous.
I can't remember her name, but anyway, if you look her up, she's done a few podcasts. She's been on the Really 007 podcast as well. She's great fun. Recounts some fantastic stories of her time doing this Bond film, and then, doing all the conventions and meeting all of the other actors, both present and past, etc. But anyway, that's who she is, and I just wanted to point that out. And I love that advert because of her.
Anyway, Rachel Grant, is she?
Moving on, Goldfinger.
It's Rachel Grant.
In Goldfinger, in this, Bond bets Gustav's diamond for the fencing duel, like how he bets Auric Goldfinger his gold bar for the golf game.
There's also that
demonstrates
game.
A gadget.
There's a game, isn't there, in one of the Bond films where they're playing war games, that sort of computer thing in the casino, which is a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, but that was in Never Say Never Again, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, not an official Bond film. Thunderball. Bond switches on the jetpack inside Q's workshop, which is the Thunderball jetpack. Going to a clinic, finding out someone's identity is being changed. So Angelo Palazzi in Thunderball and Zhao in Die Another Day. And he uses the underwater breathing gadget from Thunderball to swim around the Iceland base. You Only Live Twice. Tiger Tanaka refers to M having a secret subway train, and we see the secret underground station. So, yeah, that was referred to in You Only Live Twice. The hut that Bond and Jinx stay in at the end is modelled after the bedroom where Bond and Aki sleep in You Only Live Twice, where he goes to bed all grumpy because he doesn't get any sex. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, Bond escaping from the avalanche in Switzerland. He escapes from Alex's most favourite bit of technological CGI jiggery-pokery in the entire Bond series. Diamonds Are Forever. Diamond smuggling, obviously. Gustav Graves says diamonds are forever, but life isn't, just before the fencing duel. And his plan involves a space laser, just like Blofeld's does.
Laser.
Live and Let Die. Mr. Big's drug crops blowing up on San Monique. The Icarus laser blows up the minefields. Man with the Golden Gun. The layout of Scaramanga's trick house. So they replicate that when he goes through the secret entrance at the DNA replacement hospital, and he passes through the room with the spinning mirrors. Nice. Spy Who Loved Me. James Bond skis off a cliff. Union Jack parachute. In this, Gustav Graves jumps out of a helicopter, lands in front of Buckingham Palace with the same parachute.
That's
Moonraker.
That was also the inspiration for that scene in the Jubilee, wasn't it? Where the Queen jumps out of the helicopter.
Yeah.
Moonraker, destructive sword fight between Bond and Graves at the club mirrors Bond and Chang's fight at the Italian Museum, and the hovercraft falling down the waterfall at the beginning is replicating Jaws' boat going over the waterfall in Moonraker. For Your Eyes Only, Bond abusing a wheelchair-bound villain happens in both films. Yeah. Blofeld in For Your Eyes Only, Mr. Krug in Die Another Day. And also both those films have the singers of the title theme appear in the film. Sheena Easton is in the opening credits for Your Eyes Only. Madonna is the fencing instructor Verity. Octopussy. Bond impersonates a villain that only appears during that sequence. So Colonel Toro in Octopussy and Van Björk, the kind of diamond expert or whatever he was in Die Another Day.
Yeah.
The Acro Starjet and the Crocodile Submarine, Alex's favourite gadget, are both in Q's workshop as well. A View to a Kill, Max Zorin watches Silicon Valley from his aircraft. Graves watches over all the destruction that he's wreaked on the world from his plane. Living Daylights, Bond driving an Aston Martin on ice to escape the enemy, happens in both movies. License to Kill, Bond going renegade, and having his license revoked, and then M says license revoked in License to Kill as well.
Was this all on purpose, do you think, Bobby? Because it's the 40th anniversary.
I just think it's a complete blundering set of coincidences. Yeah.
I mean,
shall I continue?
I was talking to someone today about how, well, maybe my daughter, saying, all the Bond films seem the same, don't they? And I said, well, they follow a certain formula, definitely. And I think that's the thing. Because they follow a formula, you can see elements in all of them in each film, can't you? Up until more recent films, anyway.
Yeah,
that's true.
GoldenEye. Bond uses a laser to cut through the floor of the train. In this, he uses the laser in his watch to cut through the ice. Tomorrow Never Dies. Jinx throws a knife into a guard's throat. The same way that Wei Lin sticks a shuriken into a guard's throat. And in both those films, Bond has to resuscitate the girl because she almost drowns at the end. World Is Not Enough. Sprinkler system starts after the bomb that kills Robert King at MI6. And in this one, the sprinkler system goes on at the gene therapy lab. So there you go. What a load of coincidences. That is quite incredible. But they managed to get every single movie in there. Yeah. That's all we can say about that, really, right?
Yeah.
It's probably partly why the script was so rubbish. Because they were trying to shoehorn all this stuff in.
It didn't make any sense, so maybe that's why.
Yeah, exactly. Less is more. Always. So, let's go to gadgets. Alex. Because there's a lot in this film. Like, there's a ton. You could actually cheat and just... You could think about gadgets from other films and you'd probably be right. So, do you want to kick it off? We'll join in if you start to struggle.
So, there are a few... I'll go through. If there's any I've missed, let me know. I think let's start off with the surfboard, with the hidden weapons tray, with the ammunition and C4. There is a watch with the laser and a detonator, rebreather, sonic ring that he used later on, the anti-satellite missile that's used right towards the start to blow up his helicopter. There's other things like the Da Vinci medical machine that is, the one that they use for robotic surgery. So that's used in it. There is the dream machine, which is quite RGB. So it's got the machine that they use, puts over the face to regenerate. It's called the dream machine. It's that's what they had. You have lasers with the scene with Jinx. You have night vision goggles. You've got we haven't even got to a lot of the Bond stuff. So we've also got the invisible car. Obviously, virtual reality glasses. He's quite gadget heavy. Obviously, the satellite's a big thing, but whether you call it gadget or not. There's a couple here that I don't remember. The battle suit.
Oh, Graves'
I don't know
suit.
what.
His exoskeleton.
That's it.
Yeah,
the exoskeleton.
It's a big battle at the end, isn't it, with Bond? It almost becomes like the end of Iron Man.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, I'd almost forgot that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so there's that. What else do we have? We have the ice dragster as well, just to throw more in there.
Is that the Jaguar?
We have the dragster. That this is when the one that's on the ice and breaks the speed limit. So you've got that. Not to mention the fact that he escapes on the skating on a part of the wing.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. So I think there's other stuff, but at that point I just zoned out.
There's a ring, wasn't there, that Q's demonstrating that shatters glass when he was showing off his gadgets.
That's the sonic ring. Yeah. That's the one he uses. That's the one he uses.
Break his window of his car
to get out of the. Yeah, because this also the in Iceland the rainforest bit was from the Eden Project. Yeah, so that's quite recognisable.
Yeah.
Where's that from? And it is from the Eden Project. So there's that. There's a fair few nice cars as well that are just dotted in, just because we obviously haven't had enough stuff as well. I guess the Vanquish is the big one, the Invisible Vanquish.
You must forget his Bond Seamaster.
Yes, that's very true. If we're talking about the car, we also got to remember all the things the car could do, because it had the turret gun that blew up the manual. It also had thermal imaging on the camera, rockets. It could turn itself over as well. A nice sunroof. I like that, but the fact that
because it had the ejector seat, which was a homage to the DB5 in Goldfinger.
Yeah. It was overwhelming how much tech they threw into it.
But it also had. You forgot the biggest feature of the car: adaptive camouflage. Come on.
Yeah, but it's called the Aston Martin Vanish. Not Vanquish. Vanish. Special edition.
Yeah, all right, John Cleese.
I love that little joke.
It was. It was so bad.
Joke, really.
It was just the bit where they went, okay, it's an invisible car. How are we going to show it sneaking up on someone? And then we're like, good point. We'll just kind of make it look like it's kind of ghostly.
Make it wibbly.
And
like
then,
Predator.
Because the other thing as well is if it was in camouflage mode. Sorry, Alex. I just wanted to say it's a V12. It makes a noise, right?
It does.
I've got a 6-valve Supra. I've got with a flat 6 engine in it, and that thing makes a racket. Like my entire street hears that car when I switch it on. But this thing is going to make a noise, so it doesn't matter about adaptive camouflage to sneak up on people. To be honest, you can't even sneak up on people in an electric car, because I tried to do it the other day to kill one of my neighbours. And because when you're going below 5 miles an hour or whatever, it has to make that spaceship noise, like whatever.
Yes, like a milk
float. And it didn't work. He saw me coming, so he escaped.
Yeah.
However, I was reading an article today that more people are more likely to be hurt by electric cars because they're so quiet as they approach compared to petrol cars. But it's to do with proportion of cars in the countries now. You're more likely to be killed by an electric car because there's more of them.
Which is likely if you're not paying attention and you don't have a rattling engine. But they won't die of air pollution, so that's not bad.
What I like to do,
it swings and roundabouts.
Is get really close. Turn my car to EV mode. Get really close to people, and then when you beat the horn really loudly, drive underneath them as they leap in the air in shock. That's good fun.
Nice.
I live in the Beano. I live in a cartoon.
They won't die of air pollution, but will they die from rubber inhalation because the cars are so heavy? You get particles of rubber chipping off the tyres.
It's no different than a normal car. When you're driving a normal car, when you're comparing it to a Range Rover, you can't have the high road and say, "No, I'm sure Range Rovers are much better." It's like, no, you can't. There's just no way. Anyway, the obvious thing about the adaptive camouflage in the Vanquish was it was driving on snow. So they had to paint they had to put the tracks on as well. Oh my God, it's so flawed. So when they were trying, when you saw him creeping up, when you saw him creeping up, they had to put the tracks on the snow because obviously it's a car and it would have squished the. So and you think to yourself, does no one notice these random tracks just appearing in the middle of? Yeah, and it's not even like that those treads would have just appeared. There'd be a whole track from wherever he got the car all the way there. It'd just be like glaringly obvious. Anyway, I don't know why that really annoys me because there's so many other things in the thing that are annoying, but it's just the invisibleness just broke me. At that point, I was just like, yeah, nothing is real. Nothing is real here.
Yeah. But that's the thing, is like when he showed him the car, right, when we first get introduced to it, you're sort of like your brain's trying to sort of say, okay, you know, maybe it's reasonable, right? Because you take Q's explanation for how the technology works, it bends light or whatever, and you're kind of like, okay, fine, all right, maybe I could just about get away with that. But then when they go to the Ice Palace and all that stuff starts happening, you're thinking, okay, that's it. I mean, with Alex, I was completely lost at that point. I was like, that point I thought to myself, this really doesn't feel like a James Bond film at all. It's the least James Bond feeling film of the series to date, I think. I think it is.
It's the first one of all of them that we've talked about on the Bondathon podcast, where I was looking at my watch during the film, wondering how long we got left.
And did you sort of sigh when you saw that it was like still like 2 hours to go?
It's about 2 hours 10 minutes, isn't it? 2 hours and 12 minutes. So it's quite a long film.
It's too long.
There's a lot that happens in it. It's not short on it's not short on scenes and actions and lots of things.
And it moves quickly.
Yeah. It's just hard to get invested in it because of some of the stuff that just makes you switch off. Yeah. And I think that was the thing. Because it was so CGI heavy, it just lost. And it wasn't like you could forgive it. That's where I think that's where I think the what was I going to say, Moonraker.
You lose.
Yeah, that's.
You lose faith in Bond being a real hero, don't you? Because you know he's all green screening it. You don't respect his actions, his stunts, because we know that he's not skating down an avalanche or whatever it was, a wave on a bit of a car. He's on a green screen wiggling about on a piston.
Yeah. There's no consequences for anything, and so consequently you don't care about anything. And the thing is, in Moonraker, which was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous, so you forgave it.
Whereas, it was charming, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, exactly. The thing is, I left Moonraker, which is a preposterous film, but I left it with such a smile on my face because it was so fun. That's why I rated it so highly, and everyone thinks I'm insane for doing that. But
I rated it very high as well.
It wasn't because it was a good film. It was because I left it so positive. Despite its preposterity, how preposterous it was.
Preposterousness.
Whereas this, yes, that's it. But I couldn't do that with this. I just couldn't do it. So,
but if we're going to compare, so if we're talking about Moonraker now, and we're kind of comparing it, which is interesting because, you know, again, you know, as I talked about at the beginning, that there are a lot of elements of the plot of this that were ripped out of the book. And the thing with Moonraker is that, you know, it was a typical Roger Moore 70s. That was Bond to a lot of people, right? It was the gadgets and the girls and, you know...
It was a disco ball of a film, wasn't it?
The cheekiness and it was exactly, that's the best way to describe it. This starts off, I think it unbalances you because it starts off like, oh my God, this is serious. You know, and there's torture and all that stuff, and it carries on through the credits. I mean, in fact, actually, we didn't talk about the song, but... The title sequence to this...
It's great. It's really good.
Visually was brilliant. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic. Like, best to date.
It was the first time they did that.
Yeah. So you're kind of thinking, great opening sequence. This is different. We haven't seen Bond like this before. Yeah. He's very vulnerable, etc., etc. Then we've got a great title sequence. Then we kind of carry on through that. then some of the silliness kind of starts, like him stopping his heart to escape and, all of that. But you kind of still forgive it. But then it goes completely off a cliff, literally, when he, goes off that cliff
Bobby,
with the waterfall behind him or whatever.
If Moonraker was a disco ball, I think Die Another Day is a Saturday morning cartoon to me.
But Saturday morning cartoons were great, though.
I know, but I mean, they're great because
Battle of the Planets, Thundercats. What else did we watch on Saturday mornings? The Real Ghostbusters. Remember that?
Yep.
Lost
There was Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, yeah.
I've got most of these still.
Are they on your
great. Most of them. I've got most of these. It's just like you want a retro period, a retro morning of children's TV. I can sort you out.
Cool.
Alex, the
Hook me up.
Saturday morning TV dealer. He gives you a nice,
obviously, other
other
TV and subscription services are available. So the Tailoring Talk podcast does not endorse any use of dodgy piracy, streaming, torrents, etc., etc. So,
right, dig yourself out of that. That's fine.
Yeah. Let's just, because we always talk. So the song.
I quite like the song.
It's. Yeah, I do. I quite like it as well. It is one of those Marmite ones. People either slag it off and they're like, "Oh, it's crap," and it's Madonna or whatever. But at the end of the day, Madonna's not a bad artist, and she wasn't up to this point either. Constantly reinventing herself.
Madonna fan, like her early stuff, I was a big fan of.
Yeah, me too.
Sadly, she should have stopped sooner. I think, bless her. She, jumping around in a sequin onesie at her age just doesn't do her any favors. She should have stopped when she was.
And her cameo,
peak, I think.
Yeah, so the song was good. Her cameo, I think, in the film for me, you knew it was Madonna, but it didn't take too much away because they didn't give her too much dialogue either. I thought it was just right. And she has acted. Yeah. So she was fine. She was
fine.
Yeah. Toby Stephens as the main villain, though. So the first time I saw it, I mentioned this previously, he was the most grating thing about the film.
Yeah.
Like, it really irritated the hell out of me. Watching it the second time, with the knowledge that he was effectively playing two characters, because he was playing, the person that he was and the person that he is, and obviously everything that would involve in that and how mental you would go. Again, I refer you back to Sir Nicolas Cage's performance in Face Off. So I kind of understood why, he made some of the choices that he did, where he kind of loses it in moments, or he goes... Because if you look at the performance of the actor that played the original, what's his name? Colonel Moon's son, in the opening sequence. Yeah. And then you look at Toby Stephens' performance in the moments where he's not acting and he is himself. There are nuances of the other actor there, so I could see what he was doing. I think the problem is that just overall as a film, nothing was very well written, so he did the best that he could with it. What do you guys think?
I don't want to use the word ham acting, but I think at times he chewed up the scenery a little bit, personally. But as you say, it must be quite hard, because as an actor, to act as someone who's acting as someone else must be quite a challenge. And if you haven't got much direction in that can come across the wrong way in film. Do you agree, Alex, in that respect? I think maybe he wasn't being directed properly. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I feel like there's an element of, because it's such a twist, there's an element of what we missed was, so in Face Off, John Travolta has tells that give you a clue that he's playing when Nicolas Cage is playing John Travolta. It gives you that clue of hang on a minute, and it gets you that. Whereas the thing is, we weren't given anything to go on at all, because it all happened too quickly at the start. And so the problem with that was, it's like, we knew something was up. We probably worked it out, but we didn't really know. And because they made no effort to kind of give you something, it just didn't have any intrigue. It was like, oh, okay, I'm fine,
It's interesting.
And I think when you're playing a character like that, it's hard, isn't it? Because then, as a character, what are you saying underneath the face that you're seeing? What's my underneath? What's my motivation? And that's the bit that it's like just didn't come across. So I do get it, Bobby.
He's got a heritage of acting. He's the son of Dame Maggie Smith, Yeah, he's been very good in other things. Don't know if you
you're
agree,
right.
Jack,
The directing,
but I wonder if, there's a certain expectation as the Bond villain to be a slightly over the top sort of character. And I wonder at the back of his mind if he thought, I've got to, make it a little bit more exaggerated than normal because I am a Bond villain. Because Bond villains in the past have been quite hammed up, haven't they? Anyway, and I wonder if that was also at the back of his mind.
Yeah.
Maybe none of us are actors, so it's hard for us to speak from a point of view of experience. But it must be quite a challenge with all else that's going on as well. It's a busy old film, isn't it? With all special effects and stunts.
Yeah, very. Despite all of that, it was the highest grossing Bond film to date. It broke all box office records for the series. It grossed I think it was about $458 million.
Hold on, Bobby. This is Alex's job, isn't it?
Oh, I can. Hang on.
Not really. I've not given it to him officially.
It doesn't matter who does it.
No.
Go on, you do it, Bobby. You've got the list.
Sorry, I was just shocked for a second. Do you know what? Sorry, bear with me a second. Do you remember that scene in... you know what I'm going to do, don't you? I'm going to press my little button here, and John is either going to explode or he's gonna get launched into the swimming pool that I built under his house that he doesn't know has 3 great white sharks swimming around. Number 1. Thank you for your contribution. It's time to let you go.
No. That was the sound of Piranha, by the way.
Yes. Anyway, so it was the highest grossing Bond film to date at that point. So they wanted to get Brosnan back for a 5th. But then he didn't hear from them. And I think they then sort of just decided, we need to sort of just burn it to the ground and start again.
We need to reboot.
But he recommended the next film being less jazzy and special effects, didn't he? He actually said,
he did.
This has gone the wrong way. Who knows? Yeah. Who knows why he didn't come back?
And you can see why. I was thinking when Alex was talking about the stakes for Bond, it took me straight to the stairwell fight in Casino Royale, and immediately afterwards, where he needs to get some whiskey on his wounds and take a drink as well because he's he's shaking so much.
Yeah.
They just. I can't wait to get to that film. They just hit all the notes with it. Anyway, cool. Ratings. Because I think we've pretty much said all we want to say. Is there anything else either of you would like to say about Die Another Day?
I'm looking at my notes.
Not about that one.
There's one comment I'd like to make. We haven't made any mention of the clothing. And there was one particular outfit that I didn't like of Bond's. His purple Hawaiian shirt that he wears when he's in Havana. That offended me. It just didn't look very Bond. I'll try and find a picture of it later on to show you.
You immediately, when he dresses in that sort of way, you immediately think of Sean Connery in a tropical setting or Roger Moore, apart from the double denim. Roger Moore.
I think Sean Connery can get away with it. I just because of his weird hairline and his fake tan. I don't think Brosnan can because he's a little bit more dignified, isn't he? I think. I just think the Hawaiian shirt, it was not a good look for him.
But then he was playing an ornithologist at the time, and an ornithologist probably would wear a Hawaiian shirt.
The worst Bond outfit ever would have been the kilt that... who was the Bond who did one Bond film? Help me out here.
George Lazenby.
Yeah, George Lazenby. When he wears that kilt, he tries to woo all those ladies to his room. That outfit just wasn't working.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? All those Bondathons ago? That's what
he was playing like Doctor. He was playing like Dr. Hillary something, or
he was,
yeah.
He was cosplaying, really.
So, on to ratings, Alex.
Alice, and I'm just thinking about how low to go, and what's reasonable and what's not reasonable. So I'm going to go. Don't give me.
We're just betting here.
I'm going to go with a 5 because I do think that it feels right. The thing is, it's just if you'd have cut it and given me just the first half of the film and then stopped, I probably would have scored it like a 6 or 7.
Okay, let me ask you this first. Right, Alex, because we're getting congested with ratings, right? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Did you think this was better or worse than The World Is Not Enough?
Oh, good question. I think it's definitely worse.
Okay, because you gave The World Is Not Enough a 5.
Jesus. Oh.
Give it a 4.5, Alex.
By your rating, The World Is Not...
Keep going.
Keep going. Your rough up until 5 seconds ago was the worst Bond film for you. So now Die Another Day is the worst.
Yeah, no, this is definitely worse than that. Definitely worse. I'm just looking about the other Brosnan films, and
don't you think
this
it's
is
funny
definitely
that one of our favourite Bonds has had some of the worst films we've rated?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Well, I mean, especially when you look at Alex's, because he's given... Alex, what was your rating for GoldenEye? Can you remember?
I remember.
I have to go and look it up.
Must have been a 7 or 8. It must have been 7 or 8.
Okay, I'll look it up. Tomorrow Never Dies, you gave a 6.5. Then you went to a 5 for The World Is Not Enough, and then 4.5 to Die Another Day. So, your Brosnan trajectory is like
going
that.
down.
Like a CGI
which is weird
surfboard.
Because, yeah, like a CGI surfboard, exactly. But which is funny because, like John says, is that we've all thought that he was a great Bond. Yeah, he was good at it. And had all the elements there. I guess that he just maybe wasn't given the material, or he wasn't given his movie. According to Alex,
do you know what I think? I think the Thomas is it the Thomas Brown affair?
The Thomas Crown affair.
Crown, that's it. Thomas Brown's a dude next door. I think the Thomas Crown affair is a better film than any of Brosnan's Bond films.
Oh God, yeah, so good in that. Like he was kind of Bond in that, right?
He was, but he's a millionaire playboy Bond. But I just think that film, on its own, I'll give a higher rating than any of the Brosnan Bond films. And I'm tempted to go and watch it again tonight, actually. But yeah,
there we go. So John, so what would you give Die Another Day then?
Me, I give it a 5.
Okay.
What's my lowest rating so far? Here's that one.
Well, okay, right, John, focus.
Oh God.
Cast your mind back to the early 70s, to Sean Connery's last outing, Diamonds Are Forever, which you gave a 5. Is Die Another Day worse than Diamonds Are Forever?
No, I think they're equally...
Or the same?
They're about the same for me. Equally, just not films I like as much.
Okay.
I watched Die Another Day for you, Bobby, for this podcast, but I don't think I'll ever watch it again. Which is sad, isn't it?
But I mean, it's sad for the audience as well, but it's actually quite heartwarming for me to have that much
Things
loyalty.
will do for you, Bobby. Yeah.
I know, and your friends that... I feel like if we'd all been at the same school, we would have definitely been like in the same... We'd have had our own little gang of geeks.
Bobby, what's your rating?
I was going to go 5.5. I was going to go 5.5, but I gave For Your Eyes Only 5.5.
What we should have given it, right? You should have given it 7, and me and Alex should have given it 0 each.
Very good. I like that.
Oh, is it a worse film than For Your Eyes Only? Do you know what? I think at least For Your Eyes Only, it felt like they were trying, and I gave it such a low rating because I just thought it was a bit boring. But
For Your Eyes Only,
yeah, I'm going to go. I can go 5. No, I can legitimately go 5 though. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Wow, we're in agreement.
Yeah. It was. I think it gets like for the first half, I would give it like an 8,
7 or 8. Yeah.
But the second half gets a 0. So in actual fact, if I average that out, I should be giving it a 4. I'm going to give it a 4.
What happened? Did they want
4.5?
Is it because they wanted to get bums on seats and make money with all the special effects and action rather than story, or did they run out of ideas? Or was there a difference of opinion between the director and the writers? I mean, there must be some... Is there any background to this in terms of the writing of the film?
Well,
just don't know.
I will tell you what Barbara said. She said, just so that you can sleep peacefully tonight,
Yeah.
Okay, when we did GoldenEye, we talked about the Cold War being over and what sort of challenges that would pose for James Bond. With this one, we started off by saying, what is the world worried about? Where are the places in the world that are still secret or intriguing? And Korea was one of those places. So that's where that came from. Then they decided to hire back Neil Purvis and Robert Wade, who wrote The World Is Not Enough. So they were invited to do a draft. The producers were just out of ideas. They wanted to try and find a way to present Bond in a new light and give the actor something interesting to do.
I mean, we could almost
the
give
outlines included a subplot about rogue CIA operatives creating a decoy villain in the pay of the US who turns against his American handlers, which they dropped before 9/11 happened. They imagined before 9/11, and then because of that, they dropped it. Started talking about what kind of villain. This is all nonsense. I think by the time they did this interview, they knew that they'd made a shite film and were just basically trying to, smart-ass their way out of it. I think Purvis and Wade basically just got carried away. I think, it's like they started off really well. And then it was like, okay, but we also want to. And then they had to fit all of this stuff in. And then it just went haywire.
I can't imagine that the North Koreans were particularly happy with the film either, really, when they saw it. No. Even though they were portrayed as kind of extreme nationalists and not North Koreans. But yeah, it's a funny old one, this one. And I'm glad that we talked about it and we've kind of got it out of the way. Because, what's coming up next is going to be very exciting.
It has been since the very beginning. Since Dr. No, this film has been like a splinter.
Yeah.
Where it's been like that thing in the road, that pothole in the road that we knew we were going to have to deal with at some point, speed bump or whatever. And now I kind of feel better now that we're over that hump.
We've ripped the Band-Aid off, haven't we? That's what it is.
We've ripped the Band-Aid off, yeah, exactly. We are one step...
We've had quite a few humps. It is Bond, after all.
Yeah. This is true. Yeah, come on, it's not like... overall, you'd have to say consistency-wise, for quality, the Mission Impossible series is, much better.
We've got 5 films left, haven't we, now? We've got Casino Royale,
yeah, we do.
Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, Spectre, No Time to Die.
Yeah.
So there's a possibility that when we finish this series, we could talk about the Mission Impossible films. But these are the ones I've been looking forward to the most to talk about, really, I guess. Because they're such a sea change.
Do you think we'll have to start taking it seriously then?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think we will, because we'll I think what we're going to do, all this nonsense needs to stop.
Hold on, though. I am going to be wearing my special edition Daniel Craig underpants for the next 5 podcasts, so...
I'm going to wear my... I'll tell you what, for the next one, I'll wear my wedding suit.
Oh, okay. Well, the Tom Baker one.
Because we got married in 2008, and my wedding suit is... I basically copied Daniel Craig's dinner suit from Casino Royale, the Brioni.
Who's the designer?
Exactly the same. So I will wear that for the Casino Royale.
Okay.
We are going to stop all this nonsense, all this over-the-top rubbish scripting, etc. We're tearing it down. We're rebooting the Bondathon. We're going back to basics. We're getting to a more gritty style of podcasting and YouTubing. And we're going to get this as close to grounded reality as we possibly can. We're going to do for the Bondathon what Chris Nolan did for Batman.
We're setting us up for a fall here, aren't we? Oh, Lordy.
You've got to come on here in black tie from now on. I don't want to see any of this, Dukes of Hazzard nonsense that you two are doing today.
We both checked in on ombre, checked ombre, didn't we, today? Didn't even ring ahead.
What was that song?
Did you not get the memo?
Yeah, Bobby.
No, I didn't actually. I don't own any shirts that look like that.
Oh dear.
So yeah, anyway, it has been fun as always, though. It's been lovely to see you. Thank you so much, both of you. Have you had fun today?
Yeah, loads of fun. Always have fun doing this. Love it.
Yeah, it's very good.
Brill. I'll actually prepare some icebreakers next time. And thank you all, if you're still here, write to me. You deserve something. And
you thought about therapy.
They'll all need therapy after this. But no, thank you all so much for joining us. Remember, Tailoring Talk is on Instagram at Tailoring Talk Podcast. You can follow the show there for updates. We are also on YouTube at Roberto Revilla London. The audio version goes out after the video version. So if you want to catch episodes of Tailoring Talk early, like literally a couple weeks early, because for some reason the video version is easier for me to edit than the audio version, then subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you enjoy Tailoring Talk, you want to support the show, you can do so at the link in the show notes. Have a great week. Be good to each other. Take your tuxedos to the dry cleaners. Be prepared. Get your martinis in the chillers, or what, I've never made a martini before, but I'll get some Bollinger or something. And be ready, because Daniel Craig is coming. We're reviewing Casino Royale on the next episode of Tailoring Talks. Bondathon. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
That was so creepy, John.
See you later. Boys and girls. Hey, Georgie, come float with us.